turn it down, Paul. Oh, you gonna have to finish watching after you get done eating. Still kind of loud because you're sitting right here too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she done. Yeah. But it's sitting right here by my laptop, and I can hear it.
No, you want to put a headscarf in that tub that I got for you.
I think so.
You put one in there, I think.
Probably.
I'm about to go downstairs. I'll bring it back.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. It is May the 24th, 2022, day 116 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1134. Today, we read on Oahspe, picking back up on page 119, and then on page 148 in the meditation book. Let's get started. Father, we thank you for another day to be in the land of the living, alive and well, and still on our search for truth. We thank you for always leading us and guiding us in all that we do. All right, y'all. Page 119, Oahspe, chapter 5. Peace and prosperity were established on earth and in heaven by the time of the expiration of the dawn of Thor. And now came the time for his own ascent with his host, leaving the earth and her heavens in care of God and his lords. So Thor, son of Jehovah, sent swift messengers to Ethera, asking to be delivered, and asking for the deliverance of 6,000 million brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah. See, Weing, goddess of Holtosk in Ethera, was appointed by the council in Baru to descend for Thor and his host and his 6,000 million. See right here? When they're about to do the graduation, there's another goddess that's sent. It's always a goddess that comes, at least up until this point. It's always a goddess that comes and graduates the class of new brides and bridegrooms. Si Weing, goddess of Hotask in Ethera, was appointed by the council in Baru to descend for Thor and his host and his 6,000 million. Accordingly, Si Weing built her ship and gathered in her host for the journey, her 10 million. This then was the makeup of her ship, which she named Harp, to wit. The photosphere was flat to the north and south, but oval east and west. The openings were on the flat sides with passages through. The crescent described a circle of 3,400 miles. The crescent described a circle of 3,400 miles, and the depth of the harp, north and south, was 300 miles. The pillars of fire that ascended from the midst were 1,700 miles high. The stars within the photosphere were provided with 5 points, and each star had 1 million chambers, one chamber being allotted as the habitation of one bride or bridegroom, and there were 7,000 of these stars. The framework was crystalline and opaque and transparent and of all possible colors and shades and tints. Now, besides the stars and their chambers, good. Okay. Oh, great spirit, shalom. Adre, shalom. Oh, great spirit, creator of all life, let us bring our spirit into the oneness of you. Hallelujah. The framework was crystalline and opaque and transparent and of all possible colors and shades and tints. Now, beside the stars and their chambers, the base of the crescent was provided with a saloon sufficient for 1 million musicians, and they were thus situated. God had knowledge of the coming Sewing and had commanded information to be sent throughout atmosphere and to the lords located on earth, inviting all who chose to come and witness the ascent. And there And there thus came, besides the brides and bridegrooms, 2,000 million angels, many not yet delivered from the first resurrection. So it came to pass, Sewing, goddess of Hatos, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Hatask, Hotask. I'll say Hotask. Okay. Goddess of Hotask came down in her ship of fire, even to the foundation of Gal, came in great magnificence, and was received by Thor and by God and his lords. And she ascended the throne and performed the marriage rite for the 6,000 million. And after that, a recreation of one day was proclaimed in Gal, during which time the atmospherians and the Etherians mingled freely together. Mom, shalom. On the following day, Thor accompanied Sewing into her ship, and their hosts went in also, being nearly 7,000 million. And then, amidst a rain of Etherian flowers, Sewing started her fire ship upward. God and his hosts, remaining in Gal, saluted in the sign Jehovah forever, which was properly answered by the ascending millions. Then, on its axis, turned the great ship, rising and turning higher and higher, mission and dawn to earth and her heavens. Chapter 6. Again, the earth and heaven prospered for another season of 200 years, and the next day there were delivered 5,000 million souls, and new gods and lords succeeded, and they also prospered, but not so well. The next harvest was 4,000 million souls, but again, false lords and false gods began to set up kingdoms of their own in heaven and in the cities of mortals, and lo and behold, everyone called himself either Thor or Apollo. And the spirits who manifested in the temples and for the oracles all gave one of these names. And mortals who were obsessed believed themselves to be the reincarnation of Apollo or Thor, and the obsessing spirits so called themselves. Others, more intelligent, said, have not the prophets foretold there was to be a second coming of Apollo? And are these not spirits who appear through the Sargus, the very person? So great became the superstition of the nations of the earth that in the fall of the leaf they found proof of the second coming of Apollo or Thor. Many of the spirits deserted the second resurrection in heaven and returned to the earth to wait for information concerning the coming event, as they supposed, though there was no event coming. Sound like what they're doing with JC, right? I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave him alone first thing this morning. I'm gonna stop. Jehovah said, all corporal worlds. Okay. Let me read that again, verse 3. So great became the superstition of the nations of the earth that in the fall of the leaf they found proof of the second coming of Apollo or Thor. Many of the spirits deserted the second resurrection in heaven and returned to the earth to wait for information concerning the coming event, as they supposed, though there was no event coming. Jehovah said, all corporal worlds pass through the age of too much belief. As I gave a man judgment that he might examine and weigh a matter, so runneth he into unbelief. And after A, as I gave A, after A is the reference number 9. It says literally, oh, okay. So before it had two man, up here in this current version, it says gave a man. Okay. As I gave a man judgment that he might examine and weigh a matter, so runneth he into unbelief. Then my angels go to him and show him wherein he believed too little. But lo, he goeth to the other extreme, believing all things and not using his judgment. And that's where we kind of find ourselves sometimes as we're waking up. We're trying to figure out, okay, what's true, what's not true, what is just complete fantasy of the mind and hopeful wishing, right? So you go and you start cross-examining information, kind of like Proverbs. I forget exactly which chapter it is in Proverbs, but it talks about weighing out a matter. It says, like in court, the first person to present his case seems right until cross-examined, right? So you got this one bit of information, just like we grew up in the church. The information that we had was all just JC until we got a little bit older and started wanting to ask some questions. Wait a minute, something ain't adding up. Then you start cross-examining what you believe to be at the time to be the truth. Then it's like, wait a minute, right? And then that's where the unbelief comes in, that it's like, oh, then we need help to kind of sort out and begin using our judgment and not be afraid to look at what it is that we believe, right? Got to get rid of the fear, oh, I'm going to go to hell if I just step away and even check. That is not true. You should check. That's why we have judgment. That's why we have the ability to critically think about things, right? That all that happens so you can begin to activate this and not let people run this for you. All right. Okay. Let me read that again. Verse 4. Jehovah said, all corporal worlds pass through the age of too much belief. As I gave a man judgment that he might examine and weigh a matter, so runneth he into unbelief. Then my angels go to him and show him wherein he believed too little, but lo, he goeth to the other extreme, believing all things and not using his judgment. God said, why will not men and angels be patient and wait till a matter is proven victorious before they pursue it to extremes? That's good. That's why I say you got to see the matter through. Just stay here. Don't leave class early. You got to see this to the end, or what we believe is the end, until we get to the end and find out this is not the end. Keep going. Keep going. The same sun shineth, the same stars stand in the heavens, and the earth traveleth steadily on her way. Yea, her winds blow, her summers and winters come as in the olden time. Yet man setteth up a great wonder, is near at hand. Let me say that again. The same sun shineth, the same stars stand in the heavens, and the earth traveleth steadily on her way. Yea, her winds blow, her summers and winters come as in the olden time. Yet man setteth up that a great wonder is near at hand, and no wonder cometh, and nothing new is near. How shall I stay them, O Jehovah? Their desires for Apollo call down millions of spirits from my places of resurrection, and in trials and hardships they fall and become suitable prey for designing false gods and false lords. But there came no other salutation than the echo of God's own words. So God and his lords bewailed the darkness of earth and her heavens. But high up in the ethereal heavens came the light of Jehovah, came the voice of Jehovah, saying, hear your creator, O ye gods and goddesses, behold the magnitude of my works. I labor not for the profit of this man or that man, nay for this people nor that people, nor for the inhabitants of one star and one heaven, but for the glory of millions of stars and millions of heavens, right? So he's not just concerned just about us. He's concerned about all of us, right? Some people don't like to hear that. But you got to remember, we really all are one, right? Jan, grand rising. Doth not one corporal man bewail a shower of rain, and yet his neighbor rejoiceth thereat? One man prayeth for sunshine, and another for shade. Think not that I labor for each one separately, but for the perfection of the whole. Wherefore then shall the God of the earth and his lords bewail the darkness that falleth on the earth in this day? I have prepared places of darkness in the ethereal firmament and places of light. My corporal worlds must travel through them, for so I created them. And these places of darkness and places of light are exchanges of seasons for my harvest. Now doth the earth pass in deep darkness, for I, what's it, fruit, 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 fruitify. It's missing like an I, and it's added a C. Okay, I'm gonna say fructify. Okay, Fructify. Okay. Now doth the earth pass in deep darkness, for I fructify the races of men in new growth, corporally for things that shall come after, as they absorb from the agi of my places in this age, so also do their souls become full of superstition and darkness. Thus went the earth into great darkness during the last 600 years of the cycle of Thor, and there was no harvest from her for the Etherian heavens. But the spirits deserted atmosphere in millions and millions and went down to the earth to dwell with mortals and to find places on the corporal earth. Verse 14. And save to the Ehines, the light of Jehovah was shut out from men. Thus, ambition for improvement was at an end. They became as drones and vagabonds, and when they died, their spirits continued to lie about in the places of their mortal life. And many of these spirits persuaded mortals to suicide, and they killed themselves by thousands and tens of thousands. That's interesting that I would read over this today, because me and my son was having this conversation. Actually, me and my sister, I don't think she's here yet. We kind of hit upon this as we like looking at stuff. That seems to be something. I mean, it seems like it's always been rampant, but it seems like there's this uptick in suicides. Just like across the earth, and just because she's even getting a lot of people into the hospital that's either succeeded or didn't succeed like they wanted to, right? And just it's interesting. I say, I don't know, maybe because we didn't have social media back then, maybe it's always been this high, maybe social media is just kind of bringing it out a little bit more, right? It's interesting. I'm gonna read this whole verse again. And save to the Ehines, the light of Jehovah was shut out from men. Thus, ambition for improvement was at an end. They became as drones and vagabonds, and when they died, their spirits continued to lie about in the places of their mortal life. And many of these spirits, it and many of these spirits, it persuaded mortals to suicide, and they killed themselves by thousands and tens of thousands. Nor was there courage more amongst men to endure anything under the sun. They wanted to be with the spirits of the dead, to talk to them, to see them, and to be rid of earth trials. Neither had the spirits that congregated on earth any knowledge of the higher heavens, nor could they impart knowledge as to where they dwelt or how they employed their time, for in fact they did nothing useful to heaven or earth, nor even to themselves. Thus ended the cycle of Thor, and it was 3,200 years. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of the book of Thor. So let's go back and we'll read the earthly account. Remember, the book of Thor was the heavenly account, which is separated to the top portion of the page, and the bottom account is the simultaneous time of the earth. And so under here, it's the Lord's fourth book. So hop back to page 110, and we'll start at the bottom. The Lord's fourth book. Okay, leave right there, Paul. Being contemporaneous with the book of Thor, cycle of Thor, son of Jehovah, as the latter book is of the higher and lower heavens, so is the Lord's book of the lower heavens and the earth, both books being for the same period of time. Chapter 1. By altars and temples, and by idols and images, and by painted signs and engraved words, God foresaw that the knowledge of one generation could be handed down to the next. And though all these things are false in fact, as a written word is not a word, but an image of an idea which hath been spoken, so by symbols conveyed God the living truth. God said, behold, with my sacred people I have established myself in written words. Now hath it come to pass that all the races of men on earth shall be made to know me. God commanded man to make stone and wooden images and engravings also of everything upon the earth, and man so made them according to his own knowledge. God said, as every living creature hath a name, so shall the image thereof and the engraving thereof have the same name. And even so it shall be with all things on the earth, and in the waters thereof, and in the air above the earth. God said, as every living creature hath a name, so shall the image thereof and the engraving thereof have the same name. And even so shall it be with all things on the earth, and in the waters thereof, and in the air above the earth. The image and the engravings shall have the same names, even as the real things themselves. God sent his angels down to man to inspire him in the workmanship of images and engravings, and man thus accomplished the commandments of God. And these were the first writings since the flood, other than such as were kept secret amongst the Ehems. And of this manner were the writings, to wit, a picture of a man was a man, a picture of a tree was a tree, a picture of a bird was a bird, and even so was everything represented by its own name and image. Then God said, when thou hast made the picture of a spear, behold, it is a spear. And when thou desirest to show which way a man goeth, thou shalt add to the graven image the likeness of a spear, and the way it pointeth shall show the way man goeth. Even so shalt thou express the going of everything on earth and in heaven. Thus man made a written language, and in every region on the earth. By many men were these things done, according to the light of God upon them, so accomplished they the written languages of thousands of tribes of men. God said, this shall be called the panic language, Asiyoga, earth language. You know, I hear like some of these terms, I kind of sometimes I read ahead and looking at some of these things. There's somebody that I watch from time to time. It's interesting. I'm not sure if they read this. I've never heard them even mention this book. But some of these terms in here, I hear him use. Um, it's interesting that I find it in here. So, then zip it all the way down. Oh, zip it down or up? Oh, okay. Y'all ever watch Dan Calloway? Hey, girl. Oh, my bad, sis. Hold on. I gotta pull it up. It won't zip the top. Hold on. All right, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, so some of the terms I see in here and I hear him say it's interesting. Like I said, because I never heard him mention this book. I'm not even sure if he's even read it or if it's just some things that's been passed down and he's researched into different things and even into the language. It's kind of interesting. Okay, I'm still bringing all the pieces together, y'all. Okay, I'll go back to verse 9. Thus man made a written language, and in every region of the earth. By many men were these things done, according to the light of God upon men, so accomplished they the written languages of thousands of tribes of men. God said, this shall be called the panic language, Asiyoga, earth language, because it is made of earthly images. And in after ages, whosoever desires to find the first written words of man shall have recourse to the pictures of all things on earth and in the waters and in the air above the earth. God said, as in the olden time, man named all things according to their own spoken words and sounds uttered. So in the days of Thor came to the gods. So in the days of Thor came to the gods the written words of everything on earth and in heaven. And after Gans, it has Gans, Ghans. It has reference number 1. And at the bottom it says, days of Thor came to the Gans to, I'm sorry, days of Thor came to the Gans the written words. Okay, I'll read the whole sentence again. Verse 11. God said, as in the olden time, man named all things according to their own spoken words and sounds uttered. So in the days of Thor came to the gods the written words of everything on earth and in heaven. When man had written the name of all things, one only had he not written, even the name of his creator. God said, even that also shalt thou write. Then man inquired, O Lord, how can I find a creator? That's beautiful. God said, many tribes have I raised up upon the earth. Yes.
Ask for dog help.
Oh, girl. Okay. Okay. Tap and hold both circles. I'm sorry, hold on. There. All right, go ahead. Take that over there. Cool. And cut it down. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. Verse 14. God said, many tribes have I raised upon the earth, and behold, they have all written the names of all things, save only the Creator. Go to therefore and write thou his name also. Man said, alas, O my God, I know no name save the names I have already made. If I could hear the Creator or see him, then I could write his name. God said, thou hast named the wind whoosh. In parentheses after wind is actually WH-SH exclamation point. And I want to say that says whoosh, right? Okay. God said, thou hast named the wind whoosh, which thou hast not seen. Name thou thy creator, and his name shall comprehend all things far and near, seen and unseen. Then man drew a circle and called it O, for it represented that which was without beginning or end, and which containeth all within it. That was smart. Okay. Then man drew a line cutting through the circle from east to west to represent the light of the east traveling to the west. The man drew a line from below upward, cutting the circle at right angles with the horizontal to represent the one road of all things from the bottom upward forever. Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. Look. The first line man called E, for it was the same as the wind speaketh in the leaves. But the second line he called I, for it represented the unseen shaft that cutteth all things in twain. And when he had completed the engraving, he called it Eoe. Oh, okay. So I get how they, okay. All right. I gotta go back and read that again. Okay, so this is what they drew. Y'all don't probably figured that out by now, right? This is what he drew. The circle representing his without beginning and without end. The line from east to what's it? East was it east to west, which encompasses all things, and then from the bottom upward forever. I'm gonna just read it again. I'm gonna read it again. Okay. Then man, verse 17 on page 111 at the bottom. Then man drew a circle and called it O, for it represented that which was without beginning or end, and which containeth all within it. The man drew a line cutting through the circle from east to west to represent the light of the east traveling to the west. The man drew a line from below upward, cutting the circle at right angles with the horizontal to represent the one road of all things, from the bottom upward forever. The first line, man called E, for it was the same. Yes, baby.
I'm bored.
Well, you can sit and listen to me. Did it die? Did you plug it in?
The boys took it.
Use this. Plug it in with this over there. All right. The first line, man called E, for it was the same as the wind speaketh in the leaves. But the second line he called I, for it represented the unseen shaft that cutteth all things in twain. It is like IH. And when man completed the engraving, he called it Yoe. God said, in this thy symbol, thou hast found the way of a true square. And then parentheses after true square, it says true cross and the four quarters of the world. And after world, it has reference letter A. Remember, the letters are found at the back of the current chapter we're reading, which is on page 117. And A says, see plate 63, Samoan Book of Safa, 1882 edition. Okay, let's find out what plate 63 is at. Page 522. Page 522.
Mom,
Yes, sweetie.
Mom.
Yes. Oh, okay. I remember this. All right. So remember, it's the chart of the symbols with the circles. Hold on. Let me see. I can hold it up. Okay. I think everybody can see it all now. Okay. Cameron Grand Rising. Girl, baby. Listen.
You can't pull it.
There you go. All right. Okay.
You have to restart it.
Okay, verse 20. Keep thou his name and the image thereof a secret betwixt the Rabbas and thy God. Neither shalt thou utter it aloud, for it is sacred upon the earth. Betwixt thee and thy creator.
Never mind, Mom.
Okay, I'm glad you got it together. Betwixt thee and thy creator standeth thy God, who is Lord of heaven and earth. Behold, I am the key of life and death. Through me, thy Lord, shalt thou unlock all the mysteries of heaven and earth. Neither shall my Rabbah nor my prophets call on the name of any spirit save the Lord who is God. The words I give corporally, I have recorded in heaven. Neither can man alter my records and make them accord with that which is written above. But in the lapse of time, I provide seers and prophets to whom I can reveal to mortals the things of heaven. This have I spoken to Jehovah for thee. Man shall measure thy hand upon him. Remember thy eye upon him. Seek for thy wisdom within him, and be thankful for thy good things before him, to consider the little good of them that deny thee, the conceit of them that claim to be self-made, and the folly of uttering other glories than thine, and yet to mention them not, for these are the attaining of wisdom. And we had 34 minutes, so we'll pause right here today in Oahspe. And we're gonna pick up where we left off at in the meditation book. All right, y'all. On page 148, who's we talking about? Oh, okay. The development of devotional feeling on page 148. So yesterday, we did a recap of the diet. Then it was talking about like setting up a ritual when you go to meditate, or you have your quiet devotional time, right? We kind of went through some of the things we talked about. Grandma picture being on the altar. We kind of understood why. I wouldn't say idols. This named it idols, but what you're really putting on your altar is like when we use the picture of grandma. If grandma was known, it could have been, it could not have been grandma. It could have been like a picture of your daddy, or somebody that you knew, somebody that you felt was really spiritual and had a connection to the creator, to Yah. That's who you don't have to, but as people are starting, they want to kind of get things to help them get into the feeling, getting ready to spend time with with Yah, or getting ready to pray, or whatever. They just got to put themselves in the mood, or they put on worship music, like incense, whatever. It's all a part of that process, the ritual to get right. That's it. That's all. No worshiping, not trying to conjure up granddad or grandmama if they didn't already passed, right? All right. So, okay. So, page 148, the next section, it leads into the development of devotional feeling. Many people have been soured on the idea of a supreme being or a God due to their experiences with religion and their experiences with the world. Like some people, they just start the baby with the bathwater, like forget all this spirituality. I'm gonna live life and I'll go to the grave when I go. Right? A lot of people have been soured because of the shenanigans that's happening all over in different religious factions, right? Some people even believe that talks of religion and God are the basis for the maladies of the world and the fanatical violence which humanity has seen throughout history. They feel if there was a God or supreme being, why would he allow the world to go on as it does with all of the violence and negativity? We kind of hit on that a little bit in Oahspe, right? When talking about the earth going through different phases and how the creator creates light and darkness, right? But it's for the overall development. Like you can't just come in here and just know all perfect. Everything to be all perfect, a you would really be a shallow person. We all would be, right? We wouldn't know anything about struggling and how to persevere when struggles come, right? There's an even balance. You have to have both, right? You can't just have just there's a balance is what I'm trying to say, right? It has to be in order for development. Like a seed, we wouldn't have trees, we wouldn't have plants if there was no underground seed breaking process in the dark where nobody can see what's happening to you, right? We wouldn't have any kind of anything. We need the darkness. I mean, some we could really do without, but y'all get what I'm saying, right? It's the process when you're hidden away, and that's when really the best things are taking place, right? Before you can come up and bear fruit, you have to bear roots, and them roots have to go deep. Some are not, you don't need deep roots, right? You can bear fruit, but if you're gonna have a sustaining life like trees live hundreds of years, your roots have to go down deep and they have to spread wide. And that happens over a period of years before we see the first seedling bring its head up above the ground, right? Everything is designed in perfect balance. Let me go back. I'll read this again. Many people have been soured on the idea of a supreme being or a God due to their experiences with religion and their experiences with the world. Some people believe that talks of religion and God are the basis for the maladies of the world and the fanatical violence which humanity has seen throughout history. They feel excuse me, if there was a God or supreme being, why would he allow the world to go on as it does with all the violence and negativity? This statement is backed up by ignorance because while this world is supported by divine will, the events which occur are inspired by human greed and desire. Therefore, God cannot be blamed for the negativity of the world. Rather, it is human ignorance and egoism which are to blame. When a human being is able to rise above the pettiness and sentimentality of egotistic human thinking, the higher divine vision emerges in the mind. This is the central goal of spiritual practice and of meditation in particular. When you become reconciled to the understanding that you are the one who has caused any pain and sorrow in your life, and that you have the means to rise above all obstacles, you can begin to see that God, or the ultimate reality, which is the innermost self within you, has been waiting all the time with open arms to receive your love and to give it in return 1,000-fold. Therefore, you should allow your mind to flow towards the divine. Devotional feeling enhances all spiritual practices and hastens the dissolution of egoism, which is the primary obstacle to spiritual realization. Thus, meditation is supported by wisdom and devotion. Quote, "Seekest thou God, thou seekest for the beautiful. One is the path that leadeth unto it, devotion joined with wisdom." End quote. And that's an ancient Egyptian proverb. Many people Many people shy away from sentimentality, saying, "I am not emotional or sentimental." Yet, even intellects are sentimental about their particular form of philosophy. So, everyone is sentimental in one way or another. Furthermore, deep within the heart of every human being, there lies an innate desire to love. This desire is often expressed in limited ways, loving individuals, objects, jobs, etc. What is really desired by the soul is to express unlimited love. Therefore, any limitation of love constitutes a falling short of the possibility to achieve emotional fulfillment. Therefore, one should understand that if the emotional aspect of one's self is harnessed and channeled, it can be a formidable force towards self discovery. The self is the true objective of all love. When you love a person, you are really loving the soul, and after soul, it has God. Like when you love a person, you are really loving the soul, God, which is the sustaining reality of that person. I'm going to read that again. That was so good. When you love a person, you are really loving the soul, and soul is actually capitalized. You are really loving the soul, God, which is the sustaining reality of that person. When you love an object, you are really loving the soul, which is the sustaining reality of that object. This is the basis of the discipline known as devotional yoga. It involves developing greater and greater attachment to God, first by learning about God through the spiritual scriptures, wisdom teachings, and from here, developing faith that there truly is an entity which transcends all. Ordinary love for objects is limited. If you love a car or a house, it cannot reciprocate and you could even lose it. Similarly, if you love a human being, sometimes they cannot reciprocate, either due to their own egoism or impairment or death. They may someday even hate you. When you discover love for God who is within you, there can be no separation and no reduction in the feeling. It goes on increasing and expanding. I'll read that again. When you discover love for God who is within you, there can be no separation and no reduction in the feeling. It goes on increasing and expanding. This is the glory of true devotion to God. It is like a perpetual feeling of joy and bliss, not unlike the feeling of young lovers or a mother for her child. In both of these cases, there is a constant awareness of the loved one, no matter what activity one may be engaged in. Love for God is more exalted and more monogamous because it is infinite and eternal. All right, that was good. The next section is called Choosing a Word or Words of Power. After reading this manual completely, Select the hekau. Probably keep saying this wrong. Heku. And I heard it like a billion times, but I keep forgetting it. Select the heku or a mantra, right? And then in the church, sometime in church, they actually call it words of power, or they just say my prayer tongue, praying in tongues, right? Okay. After reading this manual completely, select the Hakao mantra, words of power, which resonates with you. If you do not feel a special connection to a particular Hakao or Heku, I'm gonna just say Heku. If you do not feel a special connection to a particular Heku, or if you would prefer to wait for a period of time to allow yourself to become acquainted with the philosophy and the presiding deities of the Heku, simply use Om for now. Om, like Om, right? Okay. Or people call it chanting, right? It's not about the word. What you're saying is really about the sound and the you pronounce the sound. It's really all about the sound. We are vibrational beings. Okay. Y'all get it. Om is a universal word of power which was used in ancient Egypt and is used extensively in India by yogis. Om or Am, which is Aum, is related to the word Amun from ancient Egypt, and Amun is related to the Amen of Christianity. Therefore, Om is generally useful for spiritual practice. Om is also not related to a particular deity but is common to all and is seen as a name of the divine self, right? And also, Om, what I've learned is not only is it the sound, but Om is a sound that every single human being on this planet can make, even if they had their tongues cut out, right? It's amazing. Practice it and you will see. I saw is a great yogi teach about this, right? It's a universal sound that everybody can make. You don't even need the use of your tongue to do it because some people don't have the use of their tongue. Some people have had their tongues cut out, right? But this is one that's universal that will, if you do it enough or you just sit there and you just got to go test it, right? It is a sound that it'll calm you down and it will connect you, right? And you will feel it, right? You will feel the vibration going through your body. Om is a universal word of power which was used in ancient Egypt and is used extensively in India by yogis. Om or Om is related to the word Amun from ancient Egypt, and Amun is related to the Amen of Christianity. Therefore, Om is generally useful for spiritual practice. Om is not related to a particular deity, but is common to all and is seen as a name of the divine self. It is also the Heku mantra of the sixth energy center at the point between the eyebrows, known as the ancient Egyptian Ujat, or the eye of Haru, or Rat, or Uraeus serpent, and the third eye of Shiva in India. Right, your third eye right here, the sixth chakra. Right. You will use Heku for chanting during your worship periods and at idle times during the day. You will use it from now on to dig deeply into the unconscious regions of your mind as a miner uses a pick to cut into a mountain in the search of gold. Right? Humming does the same thing, right? Because you're not using words. You ever hear somebody hum and they can take you, seem like they can take you right into the spirit of Yah, like right there. Sometimes we don't really hear that. We hear that from like the past generations when grandmothers would do it, right? They wouldn't even need to say a word, they just get the humming, right? It's the sound that takes us right there. It aligns us, right? Okay. You will use it from now on to dig deeply into the unconscious regions of your mind as a miner uses a pick to cut into a mountain in search of gold. Sometimes the meditative mood is promoted by listening to music, sounds of nature, etc. She got sounds of nature playing on her little thing. There are the birds. Sometimes the meditative mood is promoted by listening to music, sounds of nature, etc. You may use these, but you should keep in mind that your objective is to reach a state of mind which does not depend upon externalities. Right? Remember, we're talking about the picture of grandma. You got to get started somewhere. And once you get in the zone and you do it consistently, you know how to get right into that meditative state. You don't even have to go to your place where you have everything set aside. You just trained yourself, just like we mentioned, having training wheels. Every time you go get on the bike, you don't put your training wheels back on. No, you've already learned how to do that. You know how to get right into the zone. You know how to keep your balance and go. Meditation is the same way. Sometimes they need to set aside altars just kind of get them going till they figure out how to do it, and they do it enough to where they can feel the connection of their spirit with the great spirit with Yah, right? Okay, same exact thing, y'all. Sometime, let me just go back. Yeah. Sometimes the meditative mood is promoted by listening to music, sounds of nature, etc. You may use these, but you should keep in mind that your objective is to reach a state of mind which does not depend upon externalities. Many times, the mind, with its endless desires, will become fickle about the type of music or the type of incense or the type of position, etc. These are all distractions which can become excuses for failure. You must keep in view that you are working with your mind by trying to facilitate the beginning stages of meditation practice. However, if you suddenly cannot turn on the music because the power went off, what will you do? If you ran out of incense and forgot to get some on the way home, what will you do? You must gradually learn to withdraw from all the externalities by training the mind to be one pointed towards your object of meditation, right? Which is our Creator, Yah, the Great Spirit, or whatever name you've chosen to call Him. And when I say him, it encompasses male and female energy. So I'm not being sexist where I think the creator is male or a feminist if I say she, right? But just because how I grew up, but just know now, when I say he, it's not, it's encompassing male and female energy because all of that, the duality of male and female here in this realm comes out of the one, right? Okay. Quote, a yogi, one who practices yoga, should abide in solitude, end quote. And that comes from Gita chapter 6, Adhyayadama Yoga, the yoga of meditation. Okay, that's where that quote came from. Another factor which is important to promoting an atmosphere which is conducive for meditation is to be alone. Many people think of meditation as a practice which is performed by hermits or people who live a solitary life up on a mountain and so on. This form of lifestyle can be conducive for spiritual life, but only if you are truly prepared to live in this manner. Many people dream about how it would be to be so wonderful to get away from it all. When they finally take a vacation or move to some other place where they thought they would become more at peace, they find that they are plagued by the same worries and anxieties. If you reflect upon this honestly, you will understand that there is no escaping the world. This is because the world is within you, or rather, you are creating your vision of the world with your thoughts, desires, worries, and cares. I say that again. That was good. And like my mama said, now that'll preach. Listen, if you reflect upon this honestly, you will understand that there is no escaping the world. Kind of like how my Hebrew brethren and sister waiting to be transported out of Babylon to get away from Babylon. Gee, Babylon is everywhere. Not just America trying to escape from here and get over to Africa. You're going to get over there, you're going to see the same problems. It's just going to look a little different, right? If you reflect upon this honestly, you will understand that there is no escaping the world. This is because the world is within you, or rather, you are creating your vision of the world with your thoughts, desires, worries, and cares. Therefore, you carry the world around with you wherever you go. So running away will not work. This is why the authentic mystical philosophers from ancient times have taught that a spiritual aspirant must not run away from the adversities of life, but must learn to understand them while at the same time developing spiritual wisdom and strength in order to overcome them, right? Perseverance, the darkness that comes after the period of light, or vice versa, the darkness that comes after light or before light, whatever. You got to learn how to persevere through it all. This is why the authentic mystical philosophers from ancient times have taught that a spiritual aspirant must not run away from the adversities of life, but must learn to understand them while at the same time developing spiritual wisdom and strength in order to overcome them. This is the only way to truly succeed in life. Overcoming them implies gaining the ability to remain at peace and abiding in the awareness of divine communion at hold on. This ability is more important and more valuable than all the riches in the world. Thus, a geographical location does not ensure peace and tranquility. So, what is the best way to be alone, even when living in the middle of a bustling city? If you plan your day properly, you can create silence and time alone. In the morning hours, no one is around and there is silence. Therefore, you are essentially alone. During your work, you can take breaks and you may be even able to come home so as to practice silent time and meditation. Prior to beginning your meditation practice, you can practice yoga exercises, but if you are pressed for time, you can practice breathing and relaxation exercises. These will be useful, especially if you have just come from a dynamic activity and the entire process should take no more than 5 minutes. Simply sit or lay quietly and focus attention on one part of your body after another. Begin tensing the muscles in that particular area and then release them. Feel the tension and the stress leaving the body. Where we at? We'll pause right here because the next section is the daily schedule for yoga practice, and then it goes on to the basic schedule of physical practice. So I want to kind of keep that together. And we have 58 minutes, so we're gonna pause right here at our time for today, y'all. That was good. All right, y'all. So it is Tuesday, May the 24th, 2022, day 116 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count. Remember, that's without the Sabbath or the Sabbath feast days, and the week that I took the hiatus because I had to restore my body, right? It is day 1134.
It was Aaron's birthday yesterday.
No, baby. 2 days ago, it was Jeremiah's birthday, Elijah's birthday, Jordan's birthday, Jonathan's birthday, Aunt Valerie's birthday, the May 22nd game. All right. We read the Oahspe, pages 110 through 112, and the meditation book. We read pages 148 through 150. I hope you all enjoyed it today. I hope y'all got something out of it. I did. All right, so with that being said, you're welcome, Jen. You're welcome. You're welcome, Janie of Yah. Thank you. Awesome reading. You're welcome. All right, beautiful people. That's it. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wait, I did it too soon. I should have blessed y'all first. May y'all continue to bless you in all that you do. May you continue on your path of truth. And when you run into dark spots, just pause, meditate, use your judgment, think it through. You may need some time to sit and let some things assimilate that you haven't quite understood, right? But when you get it, continue on the path of truth, right? You have to keep going. All right, love y'all. With that being said, I see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. All right, so go ahead and end it. Bye, y'all. Oh, okay. I was just moving it so you can see the block, sis. All right, go ahead. Well, do it by yourself, girl. Go ahead. Very smart.